All right, so I want to take some time and start talking about our next assignment, which is going to be making a poster based off of a movie. And the challenge is to make either a new movie look like an old movie or make an old movie look like a new movie. So let's look at some of these movie posters and see how Hollywood has rebooted movies from the past. So on the left, we have a Pink Panther poster, probably from the 60s. And on the right, we have a 20 somethings reboot of the Pink Panther with Steve Martin. So you notice at the right, everything's photo based, clean, almost like an iPhone type of ad, white background, very contemporary. On the left, we have the solid colors in the background and the very animated text with a little drawn figure that kind of makes it feel like it's from the 60s, maybe the early 70s. The one on the right is very clean and contemporary. Here we have the Halloween photograph on the left where we see an actual illustration of the pumpkin in the hand. And on the right is the Photoshop updated version where we see the little faces making up the mask in the background and everything's masked and photo collage together in order to create the image. The one on the right is very Photoshop. The one on the left is hand drawn, painted, and printed with color separation versus reproduced digitally or produced digitally. On the left, the Italian Job. On the right, the reboot Italian Job with Marky Mark, Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, and Ed Norton. On the left, we have Michael Caine. Flat color, could be silk screen. The actual cars themselves look like illustrations instead of photographs. The one on the right, very much photo based. Total Recall on the left, and on the right, the digitized reboot, where the background and a lot of the assets are all digital CG graphics, right? And the actors are playing on green screens. Where on the left, everything was done in a more traditional way. Notice how they have the coming soon and the actors and production and companies and the title all placed in certain areas to make the poster read like it is a movie poster versus a postcard or some kind of fan art. These have a purpose and it's to promote the movie. So when we do our poster assignments, think about how you can add all these extra details to make your posters look realistic. On the left, The Hills Have Eyes. Again, it's some photographs and then illustrations based off the photograph. There could have been watercolored or gouache painted, all hand done, different colors for the fonts, different typefaces for the fonts. It looks a little schizophrenic, a little all over the place. And on the right, the 2006 reboot, very clean, photoshopped, very much to the point. The emphasis is more on the photographs, and we don't have any hand illustrations or paintings involved at all. The left, again, airbrush. We got airbrush and hand painted illustration. On the right, Photoshop filters, textured filters. The left, some of the text looks like it's hand painted. On the right, everything's digital, everything's Photoshop. Same thing with RoboCop. The left photograph is enhanced using airbrush to add color to the armor, to the robot armor. On the right, everything's clean, digitized, CG graphics, and enhanced with Photoshop. A little lens flare on the bottom where you have the RoboCop. These are kind of interesting. So these are some reboots where they're trying to create create a retro feel to the Star Wars trilogy. I thought these were really interesting in how they were able to communicate the concept by isolating key figures, but then just using those key figures as silhouettes. So it's almost like a silk screen offset print type of feel to it. Very graphic, very simple, but extreme. It gets you or communicates exactly what it needs to communicate really quickly, but in a clean kind of retro future way. Now, a few years back, NASA created these travel posters to kind of promote uh, NASA in general, and then also space exploration. So they thought it might be interesting to grab a bunch of designers and have them design travel posters for different planets or moons or celestial bodies as a way to kind of promote space travel and science. So they created all these kind of posters that have this interesting kind of retro feel to them. They're almost like choose your own adventure type of book covers or 60s mod inspired posters, ones for Earth and the Grand Tour of Jupiter, Kepler 186f, Europa. These places where they think there might be life, but again, it's to pretty much just promote space exploration, science, and NASA. But they have again this kind of retro feel to it. The one in the middle is almost like this Jules Verne slash um, sci-fi feel to it, and the other ones are very solid color, sharp lines, something that could be maybe recreated using silkscreen, really graphic, really bold. Survivors Wanted, and then Titan on the right. And here's the whole set of these posters that were created. I thought this was a really interesting way of making new things or sci-fi or futuristic fantasy type of concepts and ideas and locations look old or retro, so making something cutting edge look maybe retro or from the past, and that these designs, these color palettes are very much influenced by artwork from the 19th and the early 20th century. But again, they're talking about locations that may take 50 to 100 years to even get there, or requires a lot of high cutting edge technology to even observe, let alone travel there. So what we're going to be doing is taking a new movie and recreating or rebooting it to make it look like it's an old movie, and then or take an old movie and finding a way to make it really fresh and contemporary and make it look like it just came out last year. And it's up to you what movie you want to pick, what genre, but you're really going to have to reinterpret the movie either forward in time or backward in time. And it's going to take some research on your end to figure out what time frame, what time period you want to play with. Is it the 40s, the 50s, the 20s? Or do you want to go back 10 years or 20 years? Or you want to make a new movie look like it came out in the 70s or 80s, or vice versa? So this is one example. A student wanted to reboot Toy Story and kind of make it more of like a scary version of it. And again, we will be doing not only a billboard, but we'll also be doing a bus stop. Boss Baby, trying to make it look more clean and simple. Again, we have the billboard. So this is a long rectangular billboard. Venom, that's something that came out in 2018 that our student really wanted to make it look like it was an 80s film. So trying to find ways in which you could redo some of the filters, make it look like a maybe late 80s, early 90s film instead of a 2018 one. Here's another take, La La Land. Now this one's a little tricky because in the movie itself, it's kind of set in the like 1950s jazz America time frame. So the student really wanted to make it look like it came out in the 40s. So trying to find the right typeface, the right background effects, finding aged paper to make it look like the actual poster had been folded several times. But I think is a really successful take on a new movie made to look like it's an old movie, but still kind of fresh and contemporary. And there's the billboard for it. The Jason Bourne, something that came out in the 2000s and make it look like it was more of a I don't know, like late 70s, early 80s type of feel to it, where you have like hand-drawn illustrations, maybe more like a James Bond type of poster than an actual 2000 something movie. And then the billboard. Maleficent, just a clean cut shape silhouette, something like a Saul Bass type of approach, something that could be really easily reproduced using 2-3 colors, silkscreen, offset lithography instead of anything digitally printed. Rebooting the birds, try to make it a little more contemporary using real photography instead of hand painted birds and figures. It Follows, trying to make something new look old, and again adding that textured paper feel to it to add some nostalgia or texture to it. Logan, a movie that came out a few years ago, making it look like an older, like 70s or more of a comic hero based movie from a comic book instead of something super clean and digital. This one I thought was really funny, Martian. So the font that's used, the shifting of the different fonts, and then the way the photograph is broken into shapes is something that we would see in the the 50s and the 40s, if something, if it were hand painted versus photographed, obviously before Photoshop. And another thing that we see happening before the 60s are these movie posters with many different fonts in it. Like it's almost like a schizophrenic approach to using fonts, where you find 5, 6 different typefaces. Once the 60s and modernism kicks in, Helvetica kicks in, you get like one font and you just use one font. The further back in time you go, they use many different fonts. So that's one way of kind of making something new look old, is by adding a bunch of different fonts. Now, for contemporary design, you want to maybe play with 2 fonts. You don't want to do more than 2 fonts because, again, it just looks confusing, schizophrenic. You don't want your designs to be that like that. You want it to be more to the point. 2 ferns, again, really like a Saul Bass type of take on this. Simple silhouette. This one, she wanted to do several versions of it, play with different alternatives. Tron, trying to make it more of like a early 20th century type of poster art, maybe like Art Nouveau. This one I thought was done pretty well. So Nightcrawler, making Nightcrawler look like an 80s Sylvester Stallone movie, where you have like this main figure and then small little, vignettes happening around that main character, and then the font and the purple making it look very 80s, and outer glow around the box, the purple box, to create that neon-like effect. I thought that was done pretty well. This one I like too, The Quiet Place. So that's something new, but made to look very old. And so they did a comic book posterized effect to the photograph. And then again, playing with mixed fonts, right? So quiet, your ears will bleed, these little pull quotes. It's shot in Technicolor. So those are a pretty successful way of making a new movie look old. Mars Attacks, Sabrina, Laura Croft, making the photograph look more like a comic book. Reese Witherspoon's Legally Blonde. Pirates of the Caribbean, like more like an 80s movie instead of a 2000s movie. So I'll have this PDF for you all to look at and reference, and we will start working on our movie theater poster. Make a new movie look old, or make an old movie look new, and I'll have some YouTube tutorials that you can check out to help you play with some different techniques to alter photographs and make them look like drawings, or like something that's hand colored and painted versus digital.